Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to you. As always, it's so beautiful to be here. We have two retreats coming up. So the next one is May 30th through June 1st, and it's going to be a spiritual inquiry retreat. There'll be a lot of interaction between Sangha members and a lot of dyad work and this type of thing. And inquiry practice and retreats it's such a powerful way to deconstruct the falsehoods that we carry around within us. Because when we are left on our own, we can believe some pretty crazy things, some pretty ludicrous things. But when you say them out loud and someone witnesses, in a sense, your insanity or your rigidness, when someone witnesses it, when you witness it, it brings it into this space of clarity. And then at some point, we get to choose. Do I want to continue going forward, with this limitation in my mind, with this belief, with this tension, or am I ready to let it go and to move into something much, much greater? And so, really looking forward to playing more fully with inquiry in this next retreat, May 30th through June 1st. And then in mid-July, July 13th through the 18th at Kripalu, we'll be meeting in person. And again, like when we met in person in Sedona, so powerful, people coming together and sharing and actually having an opportunity to embody the teachings, to embody their highest truths, to live it, to speak it, to walk it, to see from the eyes of the heart, oneself everywhere, everywhere. And so I hope you can make it. I hope you can make both. Hope you can make both. Okay. In addition to this, we have a lot going on in the Sangha. So many of you are actively engaged in the Fully Human, Fully Divine Facebook page and then joining the student-led groups. And for those of you new or those who are a little shy, I encourage you to go take a peek at the Fully Human, Fully Divine Facebook Sangha page and join a group and meet with some Sangha members, develop some community, have some relationships on this path. As we grow a number of ways. One of the ways we grow is through sitting in silence and just being with the innate goodness of our heart. Sometimes we grow through sitting in silence and witnessing our own insanity. But when you come into relationship with others, it's hard to continue to hold on to old limiting beliefs. It's hard to hold on to one's shadow when we're in relationship. And of course, that's the benefit of meeting in person. That's the benefit of meeting among ourselves as, Sangha members coming together in groups, is we get to explore. We get to explore, well, what are my limitations? Oh, Johann said something to me and it upset me. Why am I upset? What is that about? Is it something he said and Johann is crazy? Is it something that I think about him? Is it something I'm projecting upon him? Is it a false belief that I have about men? And, am I projecting this onto Johann? Like, what is it? And of course, like, please, I'm just using Johann as an example here. But like in groups, when we get together in groups, it's such a wonderful opportunity to see where all of our little power struggles are, to see where our projections are. Sometimes we just play this game of we come together, like maybe some of you are doing this now, and we project some kind of greatness upon the teacher. Other people project skepticism. Who is this guy? Who does he think he is? And please, I'm an average Joe. I don't have any greatness here, but sometimes it's just good for us to see. Like when I go to the Catholic Church, as soon as church is done, afterwards I'll hear everyone talking about, our local priest, Father John. And, often the thought is, well, he's the priest. And, I'm just this mere human. He knows so much more than me. But when we're in relationship, it gives us an opportunity to unpack that, to question it, to see what's the actual truth. What is the truth? And often when we're in relationship, before we discover the truth, we must first discover the lies that we tell ourselves all day long. And sometimes the lies are, really subtle. If you hear a horn barking in the distance, or a car alarm going off, or a dog barking or something, we might have a thought, well, this should not be happening. Well, that's not the truth, because it is happening. So sometimes when we're in a relationship, it's just a little thing. But other times we're in a relationship and we see someone that looks like our Father. Maybe they sound like our Father. And then we start projecting all of our Father issues or ideas, onto this human being. And this human being is not our Father. They're just some guy, just some guy. And if we want to be free, like, we cannot be living through a lens of projection. If we want to be free, we have to be willing to unpack, to check, to question, to deconstruct all these projections, all these limiting beliefs. And so before we get deeper into the teaching tonight, I'm going to invite us all to shut down our eyes and to come into contact, come into communion with the heart. So a willingness to let go of the thinking mind, to drop down into the heart. And right away, let us begin tonight's teaching, tonight's satsang, by really looking into the heart and just noticing, is it easy for me to open into the beauty, the innate goodness of the heart? Or when I come into the heart, am I met with a wall of emotional pain? Am I met with tension? Am I met with numbness? Do I actually know what my heart is? And so as we breathe more deeply, I'm going to invite us to soften if there is any tension in the heart. And to come into contact, into communion, this quiet, luminous presence of love. of aliveness. And I'm going to invite us to rest here in this aliveness, to open here, to surrender the thinking mind, the mental, psychological identity, and to begin to notice experientially, purely, purely. So when you feel your heart purely, well, how beautiful is that? To open into this innate goodness. This radiance. And the invitation from this one is, can you be this radiance? Can you listen from this radiance? I will ask you, what would your life be like if you opened in the heart and just stayed here forever? Forever. And I invite you just to feel into that for fun. Just feel into forever being in the heart. Forever knowing oneself as love, as radiance. Forever. Now, if you have a strong ego, the ego will say, well, I can't do that just yet. I don't trust. That my life will be okay, the bills will get paid, my job will get done. And at some point on the spiritual path, if we want to be awake, if we want to be enlightened, we call the bluff of the ego. We begin to ask ourselves, is there a different way to live? A way that's not divided, that's not fighting, that's not arguing. Can I simply be this love? And so just to support us with opening, because I see a couple folks struggling, I'm going to call forth the grace of the Divine Mother. And so let us take a deep, full breath. Let us open our crown, the third eye, the throat more fully. And welcoming grace, welcoming support. You opening to God. God opening in you. You opening to God. God opening in you. And as we do so, immediately we begin to feel this greater sense of aliveness and love. And you see that this spirituality, this true spirituality, is something radically different than normal human consciousness. as we're choosing to make this shift. We see the world. We experience the world. We experience ourselves from the perspective of luminosity. And as luminosity looks out, luminosity sees luminosity. Luminosity sees beauty. It feels, it experiences peace and expansion. Luminosity includes all of life. All of life. But as soon as we step into the mind, there's this sense of me and you and this and that, and one against another. And so on the spiritual path, we always have this choice. From which perspective will we view, will we experience, will we live? And the beautiful thing about this path and this world is if we do get lost, and that's a common thing, we are simply one choice away from stepping back into the truth. We can simply begin again. Open again. Breathe, feel the beauty, goodness, the radiance of this beautiful heart. Of this beautiful heart. And so I'm going to invite us just to scan our psyche, to scan the chakras, and just to notice, is there any place here that does not feel loving? Is there any place here that feels out of alignment with the truth? Is there any place here that's still holding on to pain from the past? And if so, can we forgive? Can we let go? Can we empty and release? And come to recognize that everything you see is a manifestation of God. Everything you see is a manifestation of your own self. And if we don't think, but simply look from love, we start to experience love, loving love. But as soon as we introduce thought, we will pick up our egoic identity and we'll create this game of separation. And on this path, at some point we have to choose, do I want to be one? Or do I want to continue judging reality? Cutting up reality? into all these little bits? Do I want to experience the gift, the freedom, the beauty, the communion, the unification of oneness? Or do I want to take oneness and chop it up into all these little bits? And part of being a spiritual adult is coming to recognize that I am responsible for my life. And so within that responsibility, we ask, am I living a life of oneness, of unity, of freedom, of love? Or am I playing the game of separation? But if we're here in this space, I'm going to assume it's because we're wanting to be done playing the game of separation. Wanting to be done. Wanting to be done. And so right now in this moment, I invite you to make the choice, the conscious choice to set the intention and say, I want to continue to judge or I want to step into oneness. And the cost for admission to come into oneness is to let go of judgment. To let go of judgment. And so let us breathe, let us feel, let us smile, and continue to open. And if you like, you can open your eyes. But I want you to play with this. That many of us, as soon as we open our eyes, we start to judge again. Just a natural habit. The human animal body is to judge. Is to judge. I have a funny experience with my little dog, Buster. So my little dog, Buster, he's Buster. He's a guard dog. He thinks he's tough. He thinks he needs to protect this house, this property, this land. This is his land. And nobody's going to come on it without him barking, and growling and barking and, huffing and puffing. And one of Buster's shortcomings, besides him being, 11 pounds, the littlest guy ever, is, well, we're coming to think that maybe Buster, I don't want to call him blind, but he just can't see very well. And so like when I roll up to the house, I have this puppy, his name is Bingo, and Bingo will be wagging his tail because he sees me coming. And Buster is just barking and losing his mind because he thinks the robber, the burglar, the boogeyman is coming into the house. And well, I think he just can't see far away. I think that's what it is. He's nearsighted, farsighted, however you say that. He can't see far away. And by far away, I mean, 20 feet. He can't see me at 20 feet. And so he'll bark and growl and he'll lose his mind. He'll lose his mind. And within all of us, within this body, we were given a similar consciousness as Buster. And, if I was one of those teachers, a new age teacher, I'm going to be a new age teacher tonight. And, I'm going to talk about 3D and 5D. So Buster is in 3D consciousness. 3D consciousness is me against you. We fight for our survival. We fight for our place in the world. We are separate from reality. And because we're separate, we need to guard and defend and protect and uphold. In 5D reality, you know yourself as everything. As everything. Everything you see is you. The good, the bad, the ugly is you. But in 5D consciousness, the difference is we do not judge anything. We fully allow all of life to be as it is. We fully accept. We see from the lens of the heart. And when you see from the lens of the heart, it's hard to see ugly. You might see pain, but it's very hard to see ugly from 5D consciousness. From 5D consciousness, the idea, the perspective is if you see pain, if you see ugly, if you see heartache or despair in your field, that's an invitation from you to love more fully, to include more fully. In 3D consciousness, when we see something ugly, well, we run, we hide, we fight with it. 3D consciousness is a great place for Congress. It's a great place for Democrats and Republicans. It's a great place for the right and the left. It's a great place for fighting with the family, fighting with your partner. I want you, I need you, I can't live without you. I need you to behave and perform a certain way to make me happy. That's 3D consciousness. In the 5D world, everyone and everything is you. And the more you love, the more you see love everywhere, the more you experience love everywhere. And so a lot of people trip over this question of, well, how do I get from 3D to 5D? Now, there's this beautiful thing that has to happen. And there's been many stories of this. One of the most modern stories of going from 3D to 5D is if I hope The Matrix is not too old of a movie. I think it's been out for maybe 20 years now or so, but I think it's, most spiritual people have seen it. But where we start in a world with wars and fighting and me against you, and we break the system. We break the game through doing what Jesus did on the cross. We choose to love those who hurt us. From 3D consciousness, and especially if you're deeply rooted in a victim experience, it's very hard to think about forgiveness. Very hard to think about loving our enemies when we are experiencing great pain, great sadness, great heartache. The mistake that a lot of people make when teaching about 5D consciousness is they tend to teach it from a mental perspective. And that's how most religion and dogma is taught. Is here's this new system, and if you follow the system, you will live in the utopian society. When I was young, I studied communism. It's like, boy, this is an incredible system, such a great system. And, the problem is it's just a mental idea. A mental idea. Communism will not work unless it's embodied. Unless it's embodied. And it rarely is, and that's why it fails so often here on planet Earth. That's why, so many people who try to just immediately step into 5D consciousness, they can't pull it off. And even if you read all the books and the Pleiadian prophecies and all that kind of, that kind of thing, but the teachings of Jesus, the life of Jesus, is an embodiment of this. An embodiment of this transition. Of going from fighting with life to loving life fully and completely, to such a degree that we break the system. We break out of the mold. We break out of the rules. And well, what happened with Jesus? Well, there was this thing called the resurrection. The resurrection, and that's what 5D is we come into a whole new reality, a greater reality. But for many of us, we say, well, how do I do that? What are the steps? Now let's start at the bottom, all the way at the bottom. So let's say, most of us at some point have been victims, like I certainly have had just incredible experiences of pain, of heartache, of abuse. And in the world of psychology, the world of psychology is very good at helping people get out of the first steps of victimhood and beginning to walk in the direction of whether we call it 5D consciousness or enlightenment or spiritual awakening. But the first thing that must happen is we must validate our pain. We have to acknowledge that this thing hurt. We have to acknowledge it. The mistake a lot of people make when they're teaching 5D is you just say, well, you just shift out of it. Well, it's hard to shift out of it if you've been abused. It's hard to shift out of it if you've been deeply hurt. It's hard to shift and just love the bully who's preying upon you in life. That's a hard thing. And so most of us need to be validated first. Our pain needs to be honored. It's through the honoring of our pain that our heart actually begins to awaken. That actually begins to awaken. The strength of our heart, the power of our heart. So this trajectory from 3D to 5D comes through taking these evolutionary steps of empowerment. And the first one is just allowing your story to be heard, or you voicing your story and having it be validated, having it be honored, having someone say, oh my God, I'm so sorry that happened to you. I am so sorry that happened to you. What happens to us humans when we are validated is we calm down. We calm down. And so when I walk in the house and Buster's busy growling and barking and ready to, ready to kill me because he thinks he's, the victim of a burglary. And I come inside and I get down on my knees and I pet him. And I say, hey, buddy. Hey, no danger here. It's me. It's me. It's me. Thank you for protecting our house. I give him a thank you. Thank you. I went out of town this weekend. I went out in the desert again. Wonderful time. Uh, out there in the desert climbing. When I came home, I thanked him for being the guard dog. That helps him to soften. It helps him to relax. It helps that part of him know that, okay, I don't have to be the guard dog anymore. The big guy's home. This is the big guy here. He's home. I don't need to be the guard dog anymore. And he can relax, and then he'll roll over and I'll rub his belly and I'll give him some love. I'll give him some love. And through giving him love, again, his animal nature relaxes and then he just melts on the couch. He melts into unity and oneness with a couch, with a home, with life. No danger, no problem. And so for many of us, if we want to make this step forward from 3D consciousness to 5D consciousness, we have to work the steps. The same thing like in AA. It's like we have to work the steps. We have to work the steps. And if we've been victimized, first we need to be validated. Then we need to be flooded with love. Absolutely flooded with love. And then at some point, after we've been flooded with love, we're feeling more empowered and more safe in our psyche. Well, then we can look at our life and we can actively choose from a place of love to let go of the past, to let go of the things that we resist, to let go of the things that we hate, to let go of the things that we fought against. That we fought against. And as we let go of these things, as we're no longer walking around harboring arguments within us with life, when there's no longer any arguments, well, what do we see? What do we experience? We experience unity. We experience freedom. We start to see the absolute beauty of this world. But when we're holding on to arguments, we're simultaneously holding on to division. We're simultaneously holding on to a separate sense of self. And as long as we have a separate sense of self, well, we won't know freedom. We won't know freedom. When I was out in the desert, I go out there and I'm with this crew of guys, and there's some gals there too. But we saddle up, we gear up, and we'll go on a big hike. And these guys, they're pro climbers, so they just want to climb all day, every day. And me, I don't need to climb that much. I'll climb a little bit, I'll do some big climbs, but my favorite thing is just sitting on the wall and looking out at these huge valleys, these huge bluffs, just seeing the red sandstone rocks and feeling myself as the hugeness, the emptiness, the redness, the vibrancy of the desert. And when you open in this way with no thought, And it's easy. It's just easy to float into samadhi. It's easy. It takes like very little effort. Very little effort. Where I climb, people come from all around the world to come. And because there's this effect that the desert has on our consciousness. It has this wonderful ability to open us up. And a lot of us, when we're out there, we just start to have this huge spiritual experience of knowing oneself as the sky, as the earth, as the redness of the rocks, the mountains. And one begins to feel as if one is timeless and eternal. Timeless and eternal. But as soon as we start thinking, like I could turn around and look at that rock wall and say, I'm not a very good climber. I should be a better climber. I need to buy, more gear. I need to get some new climbing shoes. I need to get some new protection or whatever it is. Protection is cams. It's these devices you stick in the cracks. Hold your rope, hold your rope up there, so you don't fall off the wall. And that's what most climbers are doing. They're having an internal fight with themselves. They're having competition with others. They're fighting with others for the fame, for the glory, who gets up the climb first, who's the best, all that kind of stuff. And a lot of us, we just live our lives like that, just in constant competition, constant neediness. I need to be seen. I need to be known. I need to be heard. I need this. I need that. And in 3D consciousness, we want the world to do the work for us. We want the world to see us, the world to honor us. In 5D consciousness, you see the world. And as you see the world wakes up in you and as you. And there's no longer any needs. No longer any needs. And so I had this funny experience when we made it back to the campsite. And our campsite was, we're kind of up on this mesa, these beautiful mountains in the background, and big sky above, and pinyon trees, and little cactuses everywhere. And right now, like we have the cactus are blooming, so they have these little red and pink and purple flowers. So beautiful, so beautiful. There's these little watermelon cactuses with flowers. Like everything's popping right now because it's springtime, and we just got a little bit of water, so the desert's just like so happy, so happy. But one of the fellas, he showed up to the campsite, and one of my favorite things about where I climb, where I camp is, it's one of the dark spots, here in the United States. So the stars are just incredible, but also it's just a cellular dead zone. There's just no service out there. But one of the guys rolled up, and he set up his Starlink. And here we are. We were all just like sitting and just being open and engaged with each other, just feeling this great sense of love. And my friends, they live in the desert. Like they literally just live in tents for their life. And so they don't have the internet. But when this fella showed up with Starlink, all of a sudden everyone picked up their phones. It was just like scrolling and typing, and then they're uploading their videos, because as professional athletes, like that's how they make their money and this and that. And, you know, it just took like 5 minutes. And I was like, guys, like all of a sudden the vibration is just terrible here. It was just like a neediness of the mind, to scroll, to engage, to post, to do this, to comment, to answer emails, all that kind of thing. And again, like nothing wrong with any of that stuff. Like nothing wrong with it. That's, part of being human, but you could feel it. You could feel the consciousness just of the campsite go from 5D of just everyone open and in a state of love to back into 3D. I need to do this. I need to hurry up. I need to use this internet while I can. And, then after I said something, everyone kind of smiled, just put down their phones. And it was like, all right, we got our night back. We got our night back. And so many of us, like we can see this just happen in real time. In real time. It's like you might be driving down the road and experiencing just the hugeness of the sky, the openness of the spirit. And then that little text sound goes off on the phone. I keep my phone completely silent all the time. It really upsets all my friends, but I just don't like anything beeping at me. Like when that phone first came out, it was when I was a new father to be. That means like I hadn't had my daughter just yet, but like there was a baby on the way. And so I got this cell phone and, it would beep at me. And I would get anxious because at some point, one of those beeps was going to mean, hey, come home right now from work. There's a baby coming. There's a baby coming. And luckily for me, we didn't have to drive to the hospital. It's just like, all I had to do was come home from work, like, because my babies, they all came at home. They all came at home. But anyways, so my body started to associate just the little ping of a text message with stress, with anxiety. And, like there's been so many studies that have come out that, with teens and, young kids growing up with phones, it's like they just have so much stress. They're always plugged into that thing. And as soon as they hear that little ding, it causes stress and anxiety because it's, I need to perform, I need to fix. What are they saying? What are they commenting? What does it mean about me? Whereas if we put that thing down, if we put it away, and just simply allow ourselves to rest in this beauty of the heart, well, there's great freedom, great love. But again, if we struggle to just put the thing down and open the heart and immediately come into love, well, we might have to work some of those steps. We might have to first validate the fact that I'm anxious. We might have to flood ourselves with love or connect with love. We might have to choose to forgive or to forget or to make an empowered step. Like maybe I'll turn that phone off for a day. Maybe I'll just turn it off. Maybe I'll turn it off for a week. I've had some friends who've gone back to the flip phone, and it is a little bit painful to watch them try to text, when they, I don't know if any of y'all remember that, it's like there would be 3 letters on one number and you'd have to press it, a couple different times, to get the letter up, to get the right letter. But anyways, we might have to make an empowered step, an empowered choice. But of course, like that's what the path is. This is the path of empowerment. Now, unfortunately, if we're really kind of hunker down in victim mode, we see ourselves as powerless. Powerless. And if you find yourself just utterly powerless in blaming and judging and arguing and feeling offended all the time, it's like we might need some support. We might need to talk with someone. We might need to align with someone. Like when I was young, I aligned with my teacher. I just aligned with him in every way I could. In a sense, I was like one of those sucker fishes on a shark. And here my teacher was, just like a shark, not like a shark, eating everything alive, but like a shark being a fully empowered being. And I aligned myself with his consciousness. I tried to merge into his consciousness as much as I could, learn from it, grow from it, mimic, model, just follow his model, follow his way. But even that wasn't enough. At some point, I really had to look into my wounds. I had to look into my shadow. I had to look into my behavior when my teacher was not around and ask, okay, what work do I need to do on my own? But through actively choosing, again, I began to step out of victim nature into empowered nature. And of course, the more empowered we are, well, the easier it is to love, the easier it is to commune, the easier it is to step into, whether we call it enlightenment or 5D consciousness, we step into this greater reality. And so, let's see here. I think something popped up in the chat. I'm just going to take a peek here. If anyone has a question or correction, please bring it forward. And yeah, Tom has something he wants to say here. Hi, Craig. I'm opening to this experience of kundalini as parashakti, not only my own, but as a universal force of Shakti that is permeating the field of awareness. My body feels more like a confluence of energies permeated by light that transforms all without a sense of it being personally mine. Consequently, I feel that I am being employed or guided by Source to clear areas of darkness geographically and also attracting others with dense fields, doing remote healings and the like. Okay, beautiful. I also ran an event, and afterwards I had to spend 2 hours clearing the space of all these disconnected energies, almost like they had been left there by the participants of the event, and my system was a conduit for their return to source. Beautiful, beautiful. Could you speak to this non-dual understanding of Kundalini awakening? It feels like a new level, like casting out or transforming thought forms. P.S. I'm in public and so on mute, but happy in whatever response you offer. Thanks. Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, this is the true movement of Kundalini. The true movement of Kundalini is a universal one. Now, again, many of us actually in this Sangha, we struggle with Kundalini and we see Kundalini as something that has happened to me and that I am a victim of. I am a victim of. Now, Kundalini on a universal level is the energy of the Big Bang. It's the energy of all creation. It's the aliveness of life. That's what Kundalini is on a universal level. It's the word Tom used for that. Make sure I get that right. We're going to get the Parashakti. This experience of the universal Kundalini is in me and flowing through me, as me, throughout all of creation, throughout all time and space, everywhere and everything. Everywhere and everything. And there's this thing that happens the further we walk on the spiritual path. If you see, any great spiritual being, they tend to have a life where they are serving this world. And what is it they're serving this world with? They're serving this world with light, as Kundalini Shakti is, with love, with space, with peace, with compassion, with truth. And we know this, we have this even in the 3D model, is the people who know more than us. Well, they're our teachers, they're our models, they are our inspiration. They're the inspiration for others. In fact, like the guys I go climbing with, again, like they're just great climbers, they're professionals, and they take an amateur like myself, and they take on my karma. They take on my inability. They take on my confusion. And my buddy Devin, he'll just coach me up the wall. He'll coach me up these incredible climbs. He'll walk me through it. And he transmits to me his power. His power. And he's a powerful fella. He's just an incredible climber. And he transmits that to me. And I know that I couldn't do any of these climbs if it wasn't for him, his transmission, and of course, the grace of God. Of course, the grace of God. And so through coming into contact with him, I can get high up on the wall. I can get high up on the wall. And I can do, these incredible things and be a part of these incredible adventures. These incredible adventures. And so it's through being in proximity with his presence, that I can do incredible things, as he shows me that this thing that is within him is within me. Now, often in these interactions, if we show up with a lot of density, well, some of that density can get transmitted into the teacher's field. And sometimes the teacher, the model, the guide might have to spend a little time clearing house afterwards or working with these densities. But as an awakened human being, like part of being awake is waking up and realizing I am space. Another aspect of it is realizing I am love. Another aspect of it is I am the depth of Buddha nature. This is like immense power, and I am all of life. Well, one of the qualities of being all of life is being the evolving edge of God. And most often in the world of non-duality, we speak about being God in the form of peace or truth or emptiness or freedom. The world of non-duality doesn't speak so much about being God in the form of being the evolving edge of God. And when we are the evolving edge of God and we have an open heart, we happily embrace pain. We happily embrace evolution. We happily do the hard work that no one else can do, because we're the one who's open. We're the one who's connected. We're the one through whom God is flowing. And so we happily choose to do the work of God, which is the work of us, which is the work of God, which is the work of us, because we are God and God is us. And you see, it's this different way of viewing. Whereas in 3D consciousness, if you ever work with a healer or a teacher who's in 3D consciousness, they'll start to complain if they're around students who are really dense. I mean, come on now, like all of us are humans, like maybe even sometimes you've heard this one complain. And so if I complain about, oh my gosh, this is such a hard job, it's because I'm identifying too much with my humanity, too much with my separation, too much with the individual. Whereas if I step out of the way and let God work in me, through me, as me, then this job becomes much, much easier. Much easier. And so if we're ever, in this field of teaching or leading or guiding or healing, supporting others, if we have a narcissistic orientation and say, I am Superman and I am here to heal all beings, or to fix them or to save them or whatever it is, you get worn out. You get exhausted, and you should, because you're living outside of the truth. But as we step into the fullness of the grace of God, again, the job becomes much, much easier. Much, much easier. And I do want to add a little caveat here. Just as human beings, all of us are at least a little bit empathetically, I'll use this word, spongy. And by that I mean, just as human beings, we tend to get things caught in our field, especially if we're working with really dense populations. And so it's important to be gentle with oneself, to take care of oneself. And, like my teacher reminded me this all the time. And any great spiritual teacher that I ever had a relationship with, I always heard them say this at some point: I need to go and take care of this body. This is one of the confusing, paradoxical things about life here on planet Earth is, even if our consciousness is absolutely clear and absolutely free, we do have a human mammal body. And this mammal body does have some limits, some limits. The more awake we are, the more this kundalini shakti is flowing through us, the more, all the chakras are open and radiating with love, the limits are less. And we tend to be able to do amazing things because we're in the grace. But if we're not open, if we're overworked, if we're stressed, if we're believing our thoughts, if we're, plugged in watching the news all day long and, listening to CNN or Fox or whatever people are tuned into, we get bogged down with that, with the vibrations of this world. And that's why it's so important. One of the first teachings of the world of spirituality is we need to have some time in silence. We need to have some alone time. We need to go on retreat. We need to have time off. That helps to clear and empty things just naturally. That's how the mammal body releases naturally, is just having time alone. Time alone in silence, time alone in nature, time alone in emptiness. Okay, so let's hear from Johan. Johan has something to say. Hi, Johan.
Hey, Craig.
Let me see if I can hear you. Oh, hold on. I got my earplugs. Okay, yes. Say something now.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you. Good to
Okay.
see you, Johan. How are you?
Good, thanks. Yeah, it's good
Yeah.
to see you too. Yeah, you mentioned earlier kind of the evolutionary steps, and starting at the bottom, which is to validate. And it felt really good. And then you shared the story with Buster and kind of validating. Thank you. I really like that. And my question is, I think I asked similar questions in the past, and it's I I have in the past been like really much validating things, but I felt almost like falling in the shadow of that. And then lately, I've been feeling a bit more like in the other side, which is a bit like don't care what I feel or what I think. I'm just going to move forward. But I feel like there has been some repression happening and a fear of validating because of fear of falling into the shadow of
Yeah,
validation.
yeah. That's a beautiful question. So if we're going to use the metaphor here with Buster is I got down on my knees and I rub his belly and I shower him with love. Shower him with love. So with validation, we honor the fact that I am so sorry this painful thing happened to you. And now we need to flood you with love. With love. We need to open to love. We need to experience love. So whether that's you loving you, like working with a mantra, the mantra we have in this Sangha is, I love you and it's okay. So when we say, I love you and it's okay, it gets into the cells, it gets into the depth of the psyche, and it helps that pain to feel validated on a level far beyond words. It helps it to actually, the pain actually begin to move and empty and release. And so on our spiritual path, we have to have love. So we can't just have like a cold psychiatric validation or like on the opposite swing of things, um, just like say, screw it, I'm over it, which is what a lot of people try to do. This is very like that's the shadow side of the masculine is just like, I'm over it, get over it, it's done. Sometimes people say it is what it is, but they say it from a place of harshness. And it's like, I'm just going to move on. We cannot move on until the body, the psyche, the inner child, the one who's been victimized, actually feels love and safety. Love and safety. And so, I say this often, but like let's use like the children in Gaza for as an example, who are being bombed or who are being starved or whatever it is, that's happening. They're just in the midst of war. The same thing like in Ukraine or whatever, uh, or Russian soldiers. It's like to get out of that PTSD. You can't tell them, "Hey, I'm so sorry that happened. Now get over it." It's just like we're going to move into 5D consciousness. They have to be met with love for a period of time to where their body melts, it relaxes, and they actually begin to let go. And there's this funny thing that happens to us is sometimes we can have great pain, that we experience as a kid. And, we live in an insane house with insane parents, and we grow up. As soon as we're 18, we move out, we get out of there, we go get a job, we start working, and we're just like, shut up, get over it. Like, I just got to start paying rent now, and I'm just going to move on with my life and act like that thing didn't happen. And what we'll find is like we'll still have this jadedness within us. But for a lot of people, this happened to a lot of people during COVID, when at some point like that, just that race, that they had their whole life of just, I need to get away from my parents, I need to get away from all that insanity. I get out into the world and I start working, 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 and I'm in the rat race and I'm just forgetting about my emotions. But then, I can remember, I don't know if any of you remember, but like when there was like the first lockdown, I can remember I used to say this thing. I was up on a mountainside. I was in a different house than I'm in now. And it was like the highway, the road went silent. It went silent. And at that moment, a lot of people came face to face with this pain that they were trying to outrun. And a lot of people actually started to mentally break down and kind of like lose their mind. And unfortunately, a lot of people just plugged into the news and how many people were dying of COVID and all that kind of stuff. And it just got nutty. But if we just stayed in the silence and allowed ourselves to grieve, just to be with, to meet it with love, all that pain that we'd been outrunning our whole life. And we might need 3 months or 6 months. We might need a year, 2 years, 3 years of just grieving, of just letting go. And so giving yourself the gift of honoring your pain, like that's the loving. The most loving thing we can do is listen deeply and allow that pain to unravel, to empty out, to release from our consciousness. And then, even after the pain has released, we continue loving ourselves and falling in love with ourselves, falling in love with our innate goodness, our beauty, our divinity. Because most of us, when we go inside, we don't realize we're good. We go inside, we realize we're divided, we're a mess. There's trauma, there's pain, and we think that's what I am. That's not what we are. That's what we're carrying. That's the past experiences that we carry with us. We need that stuff to clear out. And so we have to go through this process of grieving. And grieving requires great love, great willingness, great courage. And through the courage to do so, afterwards, it's a funny thing, after we've grieved to a huge degree, oftentimes we look back at that past, and what we find is we find something funny. It's shocking to a lot of people. We realize, oh, the past is no longer here. I can't find it within me. I can't find it. Like when I was a kid, I had absolute fear and hatred of my father. When I look for that fear and hatred now, none of it's there. None of it's there. Because I grieved fully. I met myself with an absolute love. Then after the grief, I continued to open to love and recognize I am love. I am love. And when I know myself as love, well, love is in the present moment. There's no past. There's no heartache. There's no, should I just hurry up and get over it, or should I just keep validating the story over and over again? Because Johan's pointing out something beautiful. He's pointing out the shadow of psychology is the shadow of like Carl Rogers' psychology, which is, a lot of his psychology was just continually just like validating the client. But at some point, like we actually get sick of being validated. And we acknowledge, like, okay, that thing did happen, but I've grieved it and now it's gone. And because it's gone, there's no problem. And so, there's a good chance if we have this question, around validation, we've done like the initial stage of validation, initial work of validation. We need to do the deeper work of fully loving that part of us, letting it absolutely grieve and empty out. And then afterwards, it's like we feel blank, but blank like an innocent newborn child, where it's like, oh, I'm happy, happy to be alive, happy to be here, happy to play, happy to experience life from this place of love. There's no feeling like I need to hurry up and get over it. Was that helpful, Johan?
Yeah, that was helpful.
Was there
Um,
anything in there I missed?
um, no, I think it was a really good answer. I think there's just something I could add is like lately I feel a lot of pain,
Yeah.
and there's this time kind of tendency to kind of just bear it, just bear it, open, bear it. I don't know, kind
So
of
so when
feel
you
it.
say,
I feel it,
yeah,
And I'm just like opening to as best as I can to it
Yeah.
without like.
Yeah. So Johan, let me ask you, where's the tenderness? You know what I mean?
Mhm,
It's like we need to get in touch with that tenderness. So that just like just the pure like bearing it. Like sometimes like within that bearing it, there can be almost
mhm,
like a rigidity or like, it can almost feel like a tree that's kind of old and it's in the wind and it's like ready to snap, because we're just like bearing it. We're like grin, like they say that old saying, just grin and bear it. It's like what I'm speaking about here is tenderly opening. And as soon as we tenderly open, we see, oh my gosh, there's so much pain here. And with tenderness, it's hard to hold back the tears. It's hard to hold back the tears. And the beautiful thing about tears, I love this saying, it's like tears wash away the pain of the heart. They wash away the pain of the heart. And sometimes we just need to let those tears come and flow. And it creates this most wonderful form of compassion. It's like a compassion that it's interesting, a compassion that is so strong and so open and so tender that it's willing to feel, to experience, to be with everything. And it can have this feeling of just breaking. And that scares a lot of people. So a lot of people are like, no, 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 I just got to keep like fighting and going forward. It's like, no, we allow ourselves to break. So we must trust that we are breaking open. We're not breaking apart. We're breaking open. And in that breaking open, it's like all of a sudden we're in 5D consciousness. We're in this other world where we're like smiling at our pain. We're so happy to feel this pain. We're so happy to let it come, let it be felt, let it be expressed, let it be released. And it just starts emptying out of us. It's like I was boiling some milk earlier. I was making my wife coffee and I was trying to make her, like a frothy milk because that's what she likes. And like that milk, it just starts to boil over. I can feel like that. It's just like boiling over. And it's just like doing it on its own. It's like releasing itself. It's liberating itself. There's a great freedom in this. But when we're bearing it, like sometimes there's like a gripping in the jaw and in the teeth, when we're bearing it, it's like when you go to the dentist and they're drilling in your teeth and you're just like gripping, all through the midline. It's like, okay, like that's a terrible moment, versus just opening and surrendering. And so I'm going to invite some more tenderness into your practice here. And of course, this isn't just for Johan. It's like we can all learn from this because all of us do this to some degree. Is our mind is always looking for a strategy, and it's normally repress or express. But the expression from the mind is often an expression of blame or expression of judgment. We need to allow the throat chakra to open and just allow the emotions to come, to flow, to empty while we're holding ourselves in this space of love. And as we do so, again, there's this funny thing that happens when we no longer resist pain. When you merge with the pain fully, what's the most loving thing? So as we merge into pain, we're simultaneously merging with compassion, with love, with truth, with healing, with forgiveness, with kindness, with tenderness, with openness, with spaciousness, because there's no longer resistance within us. And that's where the Buddha uses this word like self liberating. things just start to liberate out of our being. Like Tom asked this question about, working with people, and you'll find, like I found this many times, as I'm just be walking down the street and I'll feel someone else's thoughts within me. Like someone within the Sangha, I'll feel their thoughts, I'll feel their pain, and I'll just open to it. And then I'll start laughing or crying, just like tears will start flowing. And I'll just feel like this thing is just being liberated, just being liberated. And it doesn't matter if it's mine, if it's theirs, if it's yours, if it's this, if it's that. It's just being open. It's being open. And when we're open, things just flow. Things just flow. But our mind, especially a mind that's been traumatized, or a mind that's been bullied, a mind that's been beat up with by life, that mind, like as we grow, that mind tries to have some real psychological strategies. And one of them is to bear it. I used to just bear everything. And while I was bearing everything, I was just noticing my jaw would get tighter and tighter. And the dentist was like, "You're grinding your teeth, Mr. Holliday. You need to stop that." And I'm like, I'm carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders. I'm trying to keep this family together. I'm trying to keep everything together. And the dentist would be like, "Dude, you need to relax, man." It's like, oh yeah, I need to relax. And I would laugh at myself trying to bear it. And as soon as I would laugh, often like little tears would flow down my cheeks. And I'd start to feel this breaking of the thing. But again, we have to be willing to be vulnerable. If I was one of those guys who acted like I was tough, I would just keep bearing it harder and harder and harder and be like, "Oh no, I can't let the dentist see me cry," or anything like that. I have to keep it all together, is what our mind will tell us. The problem is our body is hardwired not to keep everything together. Our body is hardwired that if we have trauma or pain or sadness or whatever, we're supposed to shake, we're supposed to cry, we're supposed to laugh, we're supposed to shake, And sometimes people get upset with me because they'll tell me something terrible and I'll be laughing a little bit. And just the laughing is just the helping the energy, the density to move, to shake, to empty. And it's like we're gonna laugh or we're gonna cry. Some of us do both. I do both often. Is we just let it flow, we let it empty. And then the funny thing is we don't ever, like if we do this, we don't ever have to think about forgiveness. After we've had a good cry, a good shaking, a good release, a total surrender, forgiveness is just like a byproduct afterwards. We're not thinking, should I hold on to this pain? It's just like, oh yeah, of course. Of course I'm going to forgive. Of course I'm letting go of this. Of course, it's already been let go of. Whereas for a lot of people, they struggle with forgiveness because they haven't let go of the thing. You can't forgive until you own it, and you can't let go of something until you've owned it first, felt it, experienced it, and then it can empty out. Then it can empty out. It's a beautiful question, Johan. Beautiful question. Yeah. Yeah. Nice to have you here.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think we did it, everyone. I think we did it. Let me see if there's anything else anyone wants to write. Craig, you got to get what is he telling me? A frothing wand. He's telling me about how to make a coffee. Thank you, Taylor. I'll look into that. I'll look into that. So much love to each of you. I'm going to invite us to close our eyes here at the end, and let us send this love out to all of our brothers and sisters here on planet Earth. Let's send it out to all beings, the plant, the animal kingdoms, all humans, all those suffering with war and violence and slavery and heartache, going to invite us all to open our crown more fully and our heart more fully, seeing yourself as a conduit of grace, of light, of love, and seeing this radiance flow all throughout planet Earth. Blessing all beings, blessing the mountains, the skies, the earth, the rivers, the trees, the jungles, the forests, the oceans, everything blessed, flooded with love. May God's grace prevail. May the highest love, truth, and light, peace and bliss prevail throughout planet Earth. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om Tat Sat, Hari Om. Okay, so much love to each of you. Good night, everyone. Good to be with you. Bye.